Okay. All right. I will send out the invite. Okay. Is the mic's not hearing me? Test. Test? Test. Test. Okay, remote people, can you hear me? Okay, I'm talking. Can anybody hear me? Oh, perfect. Thank you, Kelly. There's probably going to be a good 30 seconds of me just making various noises on the recording. That's okay. Okay. So what's going on tonight? We got a quick lecture, just some last loose ends we got to catch up on before I can turn you over to Joey in 2 weeks. Then for the remainder of the time, we're going to be just coding. We're going to give it a go at building our own to-dos apps. All right. I will share my screen. Oh, yep. Give me 1 sec. That's on the slides. Those are slides. Okay. Sorry, getting a phone call from somebody. Okay. So tonight we're going to be talking about component lifecycle methods and list keys. Probably should talk about list keys yesterday, but I kind of forgot about them, so we're just going to cover them tonight. Okay, the component lifecycle. So every component, when you put it into a page by putting it inside some other JSX or just returning it from JSXs itself, has a lifecycle. And there are 3 main stages of it: mounting, updating, and unmounting. And React exposes an API to us that allows us to do different things during each part of those, during each part of the lifecycle. Also important to know, we have to use it inside a class component instead of a function component. So I have to say class, your component name extends react.component instead of just saying component name and then returning a function, because the function API doesn't have access to these. Yes?
Doesn't think that you're sharing your screen.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Excuse me. Where was I?
Sorry.
That's okay.
You were saying that the function.
Oh, right. So there's a different API between class components and function components. Class components, when you say class, the component name extends react.component, has access to these lifecycle functions. The function component API does not. So basically it just means, hey, if you want to tie into any of these stages, use a class. Class and React component are basically the same thing. There's just 2 different kinds of React components. So there's a class and then there's a function. And then you can just hook into more of the React component API with class than you can with function. And the reason why you'd want to hook into a class, use the class part, is because then you can do things like set state. You can access into these the three main like the stages of the component lifecycle, and you cannot do those with the function components. They don't have state, and they also don't implement the class that has these functions for you. Like the important part is that extends React.component line, because React.component is what has these functions in state. And by saying our component extends it, then our component also has these functions in state. So the first lifecycle stage is mounting. That just means it's when the component is first rendered on the page. Basically, so if these three functions would be called one at a time. So the first one that gets called is constructor. We've all seen that at this point. That's like when you put it at the top of your class, says constructor props. You call super props in it, and like you set your initial state. So basically, that means that happens first when it mounts. Did I explain that? No. Okay. So it's called mounting because it gets put into the DOM at that point. So you don't see it beforehand. Then when it gets mounted, it's in the DOM, so you see it. The next thing that happens is actually renders in the DOM. So that's the part where you actually see it appear. And then finally, we get component did mount, which is just a handy status, handy function that gets called after everything else is run. So then you're able to do some stuff in your component. So the constructor, it only runs once when the component is mounted. This is a really good place to set your initial state because it only gets run once, so you don't have to worry about overwriting your initial state. Remember that you have to say this.state equals initial state and not use the this.setState function. Also, if you remember, we were talking about using bind yesterday. This is generally a good place to bind your event handlers to this. Yeah. So you don't always have to bind this because in some places this still retains, this is just a reference to your component. And some places retain this as a reference to your component. But event handlers, for example, if you define them as their own separate function inside your class, they won't retain the reference to this. So by putting this.handleClick equals this.handleClick.bind and then this in your constructor, that means when your handleClick function finally gets called as an event handler, this will be what you expect it to be, a reference to your class, your component. Does that make sense? Cool. So when you're writing constructor, you don't want to subscribe to anything like a JavaScript event stream or use anything with side effects. Basically, side effects just means you call something that causes something else to happen. A good example of a side effect is like making an asynchronous web request. So you make the request, and then you cause the side effect of having to wait for your constructor to come back, return. The reason why you don't want to run it in your constructor is because it's entirely possible that your React component will run through the entire mounting lifecycle and get past the render function, and your web request won't have returned yet, so you won't be able to do anything with that value when it comes back. So just remember, don't put any asynchronous code inside your constructor. Has to be synchronous. So render, that's where you return your JSX. You don't want to modify component state from render. It's just bad practice. Other than that, probably one of the functions we've seen the most. Does anybody have any component or questions about render? Okay. Yeah, basically. Yep, it just.
I can't hear either.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that final class or final function component did mount. This only gets called once after the component is inserted into the DOM. Now, at the end of our mounting lifecycle, here is where we can start updating our state. It's nice here because when you update your state from component did mount, usually updating state causes your component to refresh every time, but by doing it here, it only shows your new state, doesn't show your initial state. So if you have like just some test values in initial state, and then you finally load your real initial state values in this part, users won't see your test or your like initial state values. It's just a little bit cleaner. This is the time when you want to do logic that depends on DOM nodes, like say getting the width of the window, for example, because this is after your component has been mounted into the DOM, so it has access to it. If you'd done it in the constructor, it wouldn't have access to it. You'd have no way of getting the width of the window. And finally, this is where you'd also want to make any of your asynchronous network requests or like set up subscriptions, because at this point, they can be saved into state. Okay, so next up in the lifecycle tree is updating. So this is what happens after component state or props are updated. No, so that's a separate, this is a whole new function. So in like your component, like you have your, yeah, so inside your components class, you have like your constructor function, and then you have a render function on the bottom. And then like between the two, you could put component did mount. No, so component did mount is a function. That's just a function that the React component API is expecting. So it knows that when it sees that function, it says, hey, after this component first mounts, call this function. So it's basically a function that you just put in your component. It doesn't have, you don't have to worry about calling it yourself. React knows when to call it. So it's kind of abstracted away from you looking at it. You just have to put the logic there, and React will know what to do with it. If you really want to understand how this all works, you're kind of going to have to look at the React source code or like find some blog posts where people walk through it. It's a little bit outside the scope of this class, unfortunately. The most I can tell you is, hey, I promise if you put this in component did mount, then it will happen after it mounts. So let's see, where was I? Updating, so yeah. After a component state or props are updated, the component gets re-rendered, and then React knows that's updated, so it will call component did update. So render is basically the same as in mounting. It just has different state and props than your initial state that you would have set in your constructor. Not a lot more interesting to say there. Next, we have component did update. So it's a lot similar to component did mount. Just instead of after the first time after mounting, this will get run every time after updating. And I also put that pre-props variable there. That is because when component updates, React will very kindly send you a copy of the old props in that you can then compare to your new props. So this is also a good place to operate on the DOM or make network requests, update state, just like component did mount. Basically, the lesson here is you always want to do something after React has finished rendering its change. One more thing here, though, because so component did update always gets called when your state changes, right? So if you also update your state in component did update, then component did update will be called again because you just changed your state. So that's why you always want to make sure you wrap any state changes inside of a if statement like this that checks to see if your props actually changed. Because if they didn't change, then you don't need to update the state. Any questions on that? the last part is unmounting. Let's see. Basically, this is what the final life cycle of your component. This is like if you try to remove it, your component gets unmounted from the DOM. Basically, just means it gets deleted. Sometimes, though, you'll have like if you subscribe to something at the end, that subscription will still be there. If you started like a timer at some point, that timer will still be running. So what component will unmount does is give you a nice time to clean up your component. Because if you just leave references to like timers or subscriptions out there, that could cause a memory leak, which is bad. You never want to like let your memory leak because that could take up all the computer's resources and really bog it down. Finally, I mean, you could modify state, I guess, but there's no real need to because your component's getting deleted, so why would you want to update state on something that's not even going to get the update? Okay, so keys. Remember yesterday when I said I did something like score list.map, and then in parentheses, I did the callback in it for it, and I basically returned JSX. It was like a bunch of list items that came out, or table rows in this instance. Something that I didn't do is give that a key. Keys are passed to components when the component is rendered based on list data from an array. And the reason why you want to do that is because React.js has a trouble tracking dynamic components like that. It can do pretty good with stuff that you return directly from JSX. But if you are generating it based off a list array, React can't like expect it. So by putting a key there, that makes it so React can expect what you're doing and then handle it appropriately. So example down here, we say array.map, and then we have our function. And then inside of our list item element, we pass key equals item. That's really all you have to do, assuming you have a good key. So keys need to be unique among the siblings, not across your whole app. So if you have two components working out the same data, they can both use the same keys as long as they're not siblings of each other. A good key is going to use data from your array. So like for the list of scores, we might want to use target number instead of like, that's not really great because that kind of matches the index. What's a better example? Okay, instead of using that, let's use, so say you get a bunch of rows back from your table, that your database table, each of those rows will have a ID in it. That's kind of like what you want to use for your key because it's unique to each item. Each row has its own unique ID. If you don't have data that has a good unique ID, you can use like a GUID or short ID is another NPM package I've seen people use. And then you can create an ID, and before you put it into your component, before you make your list into a list of components, you can insert unique IDs into your list objects, and then use those as your keys. It's a little bit easier to see in practice. I can show an example of that after this.
Well, if you want to like use it, they actually will crash. If you use it and you don't have it, it'll tell you, it'll crash and say.
Yeah, you'll see it in the console.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's usually good policy to anytime you're creating a list element or a list of components from an array or something, always put a key in there. So you can use the array index as a key, but at that point, it's not great if your array is going to get reordered. React expects each element to keep its ID throughout the life cycle of the components, like your list container. So if those are changing around, React will like slow down quite a bit as it tries to catch up and figure out what you're actually doing. And really bad is providing no key at all. Always want a key. Okay. So that's it for that. I know I kind of blasted through that. Let's take a look at some of what that looks like. Let's see. Projects. Create a React app. This is going to be called Lifecycle. All right. So let me whiteboard out what we're trying to accomplish here. Also, I'm just going to leave it here so I don't have to drag it over if I want to see it. Just have me turn around. So why you actually need lifecycle components? It's because you can't accomplish quite everything you want to do by passing in props. Or sometimes you want the ability for your components to kind of figure stuff out for themselves. Or there's just really not a need for the parent to know something. So a classic example is a timer. So say you have a timer component. Basically you just want it to start every time you click a start button. Timer this way, button. We actually have our component class, so it's a timer. Specifically say every time we open the component, the timer starts until you hit stop. So say timer, or rather, class timer, extend, React.component. Grace. Grace. All right. So when do you think you should start a timer? If you wanted to start a timer in your React component, when would you assume it should start? Sure, assume it's just like we have our component and it just starts until we hit stop. We just open our component, the timer starts until we hit this stop button.
Oh,
Yeah.
start.
So for example, say like we had another start button on a different form, like up here at the nav, and then we said start. And instead of starting the component inside of like this parent here, it would pop up a new child component here, which is our timer with our time display until we hit the stop. We could put the timer in the parent, but we want to maybe reuse it someday to like actually put our start button in or something. It has to be reusable though, so we can't really necessarily pass our timer in.
So are you asking like what function? Like
Yeah.
You do it during render or like during the mounting? Do you want to see it or do you just want it to be operating from that?
You want to see it. I mean, we'd probably want to save its value of state so we can display it in our timer window here.
During the like mounting process,
Right.
so would you put it like component mounted and then it's like there and start?
Yeah. So that function at the very end is component did mount. Yep, exactly. So we can say component did mount. Sorry? Yeah, kind of. It's just an event listener that listens for component actions instead of form actions. Yeah. Component did mount.
So according to your slides, during mounting, the order of execution is the constructor, then the render, and then component Dismount.
Right. So because we can't, if you're looking at the slides, constructor, we can only set our initial state. And if we started our timer there, would lose our reference to it kind of, because the timer runs in the background. You'd kind of say, did you do anything like set interval or anything during like the 6 weeks?
That sounds familiar, but I don't know if we actually did it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So we can create a timer using the same thing. We can say, you have a set interval that updates our state every 1 second. So it'd be like set I'll write some code out at the end that kind of like shows this in line with code, but for now, this is probably a bit easier for. Right, do you want to see it in code right now, or are you okay looking at the whiteboard for illustration purposes? Okay. Okay, so set interval and then.
Yeah, because I can't really read what you're writing over on the corner. I don't see that.
Yeah.
And that's on the slide.
If you want to move over here for now, you can.
Okay, what's on the slide? Pictures of what you think. Right, it's just when it's typed out.
Oh yeah, my handwriting's also really bad, and I'm writing this in like all sorts of different angles on this board. So yeah, give me a moment. I'll finish mapping this out, and then we can show it in code. Okay, so set interval is like set interval. We can say this dot set state is our first argument. Say time is equal to time plus 1. And then we want to run that every 1 second. So remember, the second argument for set interval is milliseconds. We put a 1,000 there because 1,000 milliseconds is a second. So now that we started a timer which runs this set interval, we need to stop it at some point, right? So first part, I mean, obviously we'd have our stop button handler, which would stop the timer when we click it. Now, where would you, so if we were going to destroy the component, where would we put the stop function there?
I mean, as far as the life cycle?
Yeah, this is all life cycle.
Okay. So.
Like we're getting rid of our timer, we're done, we don't need it anymore. We haven't hit our stop button necessarily, so we can't count on that. What do we have to do to make sure our timer isn't left? Nothing's left there.
So when you hit the stop button, doesn't that update something?
It does, but yes. The reason why we can't just rely on the stop button is because if we say there's also a X button here to just get rid of the timer when we don't need it anymore.
So is the updating actually done as it continues to increase in time to interval?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Already covered that.
yeah.
Okay.
So the updating part re-renders the form and shows us that this value here, which is our timer display, it reflects our time value in the state. That will get updated every time the component itself updates. So yeah, back to your point, yes, we would want to do it as it's unmounted. So you call destroy on your timer handle at that point, and then your timer won't be running anymore. So after your component's gone, you wouldn't have it just a like an object hanging on your memory to take up space that doesn't need it. Yeah. So let's see what that looks like in code so everybody can see it. We need to, okay, so we got this. Let's open up but to kind of see why you would need this exactly. If you wanted to just do something inside your component, and it's not even a little bit optional like that. So say we wanted this to be a modal that took up 1/3 of the screen. We don't know how big the screen is. We could then say inside our component Dismount, we could check and say, was window.width, I think. Yeah, just an example. Say, hey, make the timer window.width divided by 3, or like the timer.width. Yep. Okay. Code dot, where am I? X, what do I call it? Lifecycle. Okay. So let's just create a new component here. How's it going, Dekir? Good. Let's see, we'll call this timer.js. And we'll just copy everything down here. Paste this in here. Don't need that, don't need that. Timer. Timer. Okay. So here's a return function. Our constructor we want to make, oh, right. This is a function right now. We've got to make it a class. Class timer extends react dot component. So let's see, make a render function. Make our constructor. Super props.
What is that super?
Super makes it so that when you say this.props, it has all your props inside of that props object. Okay, so let's see. We want to say initial state or this.state. Remember, we don't want to use this as that set state like it's just about to do. This.state equals timer value 0. Okay. So now you want to say component Dismount. That's our lifecycle component. Now we can say this, or create a reference to our timer. This.timer equals set interval. Let's see. So this.set state, this.state timer value plus 1. Unexpected keywords. So let's say
Yeah, well, it does.
sorry, what happened?
I just thought it was a little sassy, saying, "Fish, you know."
No, I know, but what causes, what's the error about?
Oh, I don't know. It says it's on yours. It's on the Zoom. It's on the Zoom in the corner, the right-hand corner. Is it task queue, error running task?
Down in the right-hand corner.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, don't worry about that. That's just an extension. Apparently it did happen though. Yeah, you're right. Not sure why. No, this is not bad. Let's see. What if we do? Let's see. create timer. There, let's say we'll call this action. Stop. Let's see. Just that timer equals.
So far, you got it to mount and display on the screen.
Yes. Yep, that's what this render function down here is doing. So let's see, when we say this dot set state, then, timer value equals this dot state, timer value, this one. Oops. Look at that. Okay. So we're storing the timer in a property called the setTimer of our class. So let's say we'll say input value equals dot state dot timer value. And then we'll go back to app and we'll import that in. Import timer from timer. Cool. npm run, npm start, not npm run. Okay. Can't resolve timer. Oh, right, sorry. All right, let's see what's going on here. Did I do something wrong? Set state dot timer value plus 1. Let me look up set interval real quick so I'm remembering this correctly. So that timer was for the file name, which I didn't know that wasn't capitalized. Let's see. Okay, so that should be working. Oh, you're right. Oh, sorry. So this one should be creating a timer, like a reference to timer inside of, yeah. So let's see, we can also say, let's see, component dot, I don't think this component update will run because it's not increasing the timer value every interval. Let's see, console.log. Let's look, see how many times we can say this all. Test. This has to be run. Oh, because that's not the action we need. We need to say, probably trying to call this as a function. There we go. Yeah, so all those are wrong, apart from so many life choices. We got, so before I didn't have lines 20 or 24 in here. I wasn't wrapping this up, let's say, inside of a function. So when I pass it in there as an action, it would always just call this exact thing every time, this exact object. So it'd always only be one because I wasn't calling it properly. It needs a function, not just this set state. Okay. And then finally, we can say, let's see, not outside of there. Components will unmount. I can say this dot timer dot was it this dot timer dot, I forgot what it's called. Clear interval? Clear interval. Okay. Oh, okay, so we can say console.log interval will clear. Let's go back to here. See it's counting up. Inspect it. Let's see, where is our component? I wonder if I can just, if I just delete it. Oh, we can see the, oh, what's this error? Oh, that's fine, don't worry about that. So let's try and delete this div right here. Okay, apparently that's good, not quite good enough to get that to show up. Let's see. React, destroy component. Let's see, first thing saver said. Let's see, how do I remove this component fastest? Let's see. React, delete. Basically just searching the same thing over and over again. Don't really want it. Let's see, amount of React component with a React. This is a harder problem than I thought it was. Okay, well, How about this? Let's demonstrate it by, we'll modify index.js here. Let's see. Let's throw a, let's see, React dom.render. Instead of having just app there, we'll have import timer from timer. Say document get element by ID, timer. Then we'll go up to here. We'll update our index HTML file. We'll add our just another div in here called timer where we can render our React component. Div ID equals timer closing tags. Then instead of including timer here, we're going to throw a button. Let's see, we're going to say on click. Or not button, let's say input type equals button, because I think that way it doesn't try and refresh the page automatically. But maybe it only goes inside a form. I can't remember off the top of my head, so I'm just going to do it this way. Get the event. We don't really need it too much. We can say React dot, what is it? Unmount component at node. Basically, we need these two lines of codes right here. Oh, this is using refs, huh? That's fun. Say unmount component at node. Then we can just say, I can remember what document get element by ID. And we're going to say our timer component and our closing input tag. Sorry. What is? Oh.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
Sorry, I lost where I was. Okay, timer, we have to go back to index.js, right? Because that's where we're importing timer from now, and I forgot to put it / in front of the file name. Okay. Now, if my math is right, click. Well, maybe I misspelled it. That is unmount component at node. Yep. Certainly looks the same. I wonder if it needs to be React DOM instead. It's probably React DOM and not just React.
Yeah, it has React dot find
Let's see here. Is that just underscore? You lied to me. It's just underscore, or just lowercase rather. Hey, look at that. Okay, well, assuming that clear interval was a function, that would have cleared it. But as you can see, component will unmount does get called when you unmount a component, which apparently is a lot harder than I thought it was to do originally, just unmounting a component out of the blue like that. Okay. Cool. So that's pretty much it for lecture. For the remainder of the class, if you want to pair up, work by yourselves, or just give it a shot, try making your own to-dos app. Basically kind of follow the same template I laid out inside. I'll repost the link to the app in Slack so you can take a look at it. If you get stuck, I would basically just like as a test of your own understanding, try at first to just get as far as you can until you get stuck. If that's immediate, that's fine too. We can help you out, both Garner and myself. Just give it a try. Okay. So that is here in Slack, and it's in CIC module stuff and the code here. So at 7:15, I will post the code so you can take a look at it yourselves. Okay, that's the app. It's students. Yep. A link to a to-dos app. Basically, from here until like the end of the night, should either like work it by yourself or in a group or with a partner or something. Try and replicate this as much as possible. Mm-hmm. Yes. So basically, just try and add a to-do. You can make a form. Doesn't have to be as complicated as this one. You can just have a single field if you want. But you should be able to hit that button. You should be able to type in something and save it and have it appear over here. Again, it doesn't have to be this complex, just something. It's okay if you don't know how to do it all yourself. Just give it a shot starting out. And when you get stuck, just let me or Garnet know and I'll help you out. I'll be wandering around and checking in on everybody from now and then. I believe in you. You have my full confidence. Oh, I have so much confidence to invest. Yeah.
What is test.js?
So that's what we will cover next week. So that is next week is our unit testing, or just testing. I'm not sure how much testing we're going to get into. But basically, there's different applications that can run tests on your code. And so by putting everything in your app.test.js places, hey, these are the tests for app. Yeah, so let's split up your tests into different files so you have that all in a giant file. Yep. So we have a pretty good idea of how to start.
So far, all I've done is index.
Think?
It's a good place to start.
You have to create like the main font so that it will.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna grab my other laptop. everything's going. Any questions? Everybody kind of have some idea of how to start?
Honestly, I understand what I'm doing about the buttons, but I really don't know where to go first. So you just get started.
Sure.
I mean, I know I have to do the whole extend class, extend your technical, instead of a new file for a button, or I mean, a new,
Generally, yeah.
where do I go first? Just,
So remember from Tuesday, right, when you're drawing your rectangles, right, you want to create like one class per rectangle. Or one, so one class would be in one file, so you probably want a new file per button.
in SRC?
Yep, that is a perfectly okay place to put it. All right, so we got an import button, right?
Yeah.
Well, not here, this is our coding button.
Um, So, yeah, I had the. Do you have to have a dash? I just, I want to look at.
Nope, no dash D extract. So something handy in this case, when you want to start a new React component quickly, just copy app in there, like everything from app, and then paste it right in the top. Yep.
The whole thing. Just this.
Yeah, just that's fine. Yep.
You know what? I took screenshots of you thing the other day. So
Okay.
I don't think this.
No.
You just one button from / button.
Well, no, you haven't run the button yet.
Class button.
Right. Yep. Because remember, you want your class name basically match your file name. Since we capitalize. So I'm sure. Well, that's fine. So all that means is when it tries loading now node modules in, we'll like, get ignore.
Yeah.
So is it stopping the rest of the VS Code from working, or?
I literally, just opened up the folder and then
Okay, so that's not a big deal. That just means that it tried to load in node modules before it saw get ignored.
Okay.
And node modules has thousands of files in, and because it's not committed to the repo, it's like, oh God, what can I do with all these files? It freaks out. But it's okay as soon as it finds that get ignored. So don't worry about that part. Thanks for joining, Dana. Also, I feel like I should stress this. It is okay to ask questions. It's not like it's not going to count against you if you ask questions. I feel like there's not enough questions going around for how low confidence everyone has. Some of you must have questions.
Well, I'm kind of following the screenshots I took of what you did the other night.
Mhm.
Was that Tuesday?
Could have been Tuesday or could have been that. Which,
Whatever.
yeah.
Like I was taking screenshots as you went along, so I'm going to follow along with that.
So the screenshots are good as a reference point, but they're not going to help you out when you're trying to like learn this stuff necessarily.
Right.
I feel like it's helpful to just try stuff even if it doesn't work initially. Just do what you think is right mostly. This is like an okay split. This isn't even an assignment. This dies at the end of class tonight. It's okay to not complete it.
Sometimes I just don't have a terminal skills for it.
Mhm.
Without a cheat sheet.
I mean, it's okay to have a cheat sheet. It's just, I guess you gotta like really break through that confidence area and just jump into it. I know that's super hard because I was there and it's really difficult to get started. Just try really hard to get through it. Good. Good. That.
Sometimes as we learn so much, it's like, okay, we
Yes.
just ended with this, and then
Mhm.
now we gotta go back and try to remember what we did a couple of days ago. Sometimes you almost have to be in order to,
Yeah.
like you said, break into it. So, yeah, I'm doing the same thing that you were doing. Like we did it a couple of days ago, all done.
Yeah.
You gotta kind of pull that up out of the cobwebs again.
Yeah, and I just don't have it in my fingers more than my
Sure.
head. So like, yeah, I should create one. But like, I'm
Gotcha.
on that level. I can explain it.
Mhm.
but not
Well,
really got it.
it's also okay to just like go to Google and say, hey, React how to create them. It might be a little bit easier than just looking through my notes too, because maybe somebody else has explained it better. I'm not gonna say that's never happened. Sorry, Kayla, what was your question?
I wanted to know what
Oh, that's putting a space between your first button and the next. See how this is in a line?
Oh,
So that's where that like the little gap between them comes from.
Oh, but this is just like.
No, if you only have one button, you're perfectly okay.
Also, I don't know how I want to get. This is what I have. So bad.
I mean, that's good.
No.
No, it is good. You have an app and you have a button on it, and that's good. Don't fight the small victories. They're victories no matter how big they are. Yeah, see?
But how do you get it to turn into the text one? Like a form?
So instead of having just the button, you just have to add some more React components there in your JSX.
Okay.
So if you're looking at the React strap documentation now, look up the page on forms. Yeah.
So the whole thing.
So they give you all those examples of different kinds of forms. So really, you just got to pick one that you think you're going to use, and then just kind of copy that in.
Oh, that's a good question. I think I found. Really? You figured it out? What are we missing? I didn't. Maybe because I didn't install Bootstrap. It says your extra.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it.
Yeah. So what you're missing in your app is there's another line on the bottom where you import the Bootstrap CSS.
Oh, derp.
Right.
Oh, I checked that for you too, or something else.
It wasn't not working, but the color wasn't working.
Okay, yeah. If you import the Bootstrap CSS, that'll be.
Yeah.
So where?
The button worked.
Or is there?
Yeah, you have to look at the React Strap homepage.
Oh, yeah, because I was looking at this and I was like, this is the same thing.
Yeah.
You just install those, so you can just do npm install efficiency reaction.
Right, but there's another part where Bootstrap doesn't automatically import CSS into your
Oh,
program for it to use. So there's an import you have to do to specifically import the CSS file for Bootstrap.
Here it is.
Yeah. So we go to the homepage for React Strap. So scroll down to the Bootstrap section. There it is. It's that middle one. Yeah.
where do I put it? Just on the app?
Yep.
The app CSS?
Exactly.
And that's for JS.
So you put it in your main component file.
Yes. It could be app or whatever your container parent. Yep.
Oh, there we go. Cool.
Nice.
Okay. Here, what happened the moment that made me have to made me realize I missed something.
Can't believe that.
I mean, it was still working. It just wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
Same. I just scroll down a little.
And I was just like, fuck it, I don't care. It doesn't have to be pretty.
Yeah, that one, yeah.
Bunch of holes.
Also, as far as next week's go, I'll talk to Jesse, see if I can get him to switch. Maybe we can switch testing out to the after intermediate React. Because then at least when I do testing, you just keep learning React right through. So maybe 3 weeks of React would probably be rather than 1 week of React, and then a testing week and then 2 weeks of React. I mean, testing's not bad. It's just, you know, I mean, it could use React maybe. I just don't know what Jake's going to cover.
What's the date today?
Today is the 18th. You can work on software code if you want. The other thing we're working on is I posted a link to the to-dos app in the CSE students channel. So I think I may have gone over this after you went up again. I think that's like open source. Yeah. So that to use that. So basically just try and get something in there. You don't have to make it as complicated as this. You know, you just field this line, just so get that to show up, and then when you click save to do it, shows it on the right. So when you have the class extends, that makes it basically just gives you the full React component API, so you can access stuff like state, the lifecycle functions. But it's just function like this. Basically, you just get access to your props that you can pass in if you call that app function with like props in the parentheses and argument.
So I want to get rid of these class.
Yeah. Yep. Nice. Yep. I mean, in this case, you don't have to. It's just going to be pretty small. It's not like going to be a real app, so you can probably take everything source if you want to. Oh, index.js, if you're going to change that name from him to something else. You can, but if you leave it like that, you have to just keep your file named app.js and your component named app.js. So remember, index.js calls that React render, React DOM.render, which renders the app at the given DOM node.
So I have to create this file called app.js so that if you reference the index.js.
Yep, that works. Or you can create a different file and then just update the name in index.js. Yeah. Yep. So then if you do that, you can call whatever you want.
And when we do npm start, should it be on sort SRC?
Getting an error. Yeah, it should be on.
But what should be
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be in the source folder.
this.
Oh, no, so,
Okay,
that
so
is
we can
a-
Start on.
Just a regular checkbox.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, so I think that's a, so let's see, if you go back to the to-do app. Yep, right click on it. Click inspect. Okay, yeah, so that's just an inline form. So if you go back to your extra, so you want to look at forms. I think there's an example checkbox at the bottom of this top. Yeah. So if you scroll down in that example code, find the checkbox. It's that.
Your directory, so I have to.
Yes,
inside
the
the
regular
directory.
ones.
Should I go up one more level? What's the one more
I
level?
think it's right up there. Here we go.
Okay, so I'm actually, I see these at this, so the level above that is this.
So that, also the way that Catholic checkbox works, that you can constantly square checkbox.
Okay,
Okay,
that's all
okay.
right.
So like the way that React Trap is doing it, they have their form group, which is like, it just helps lay out the form. And then there's like the label, then inside is your input, and then after that is your actual label, and then the label ends. Yep, that whole thing.
Okay, did something right.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that's a couple of questions.
That's,
Like 3 or 4
that's good.
of that.
Questions are good, and always asking questions.
So my project is now connected to the browser.
Nice. Oh, okay. You don't need to for Bootstrap, just React Trap. It's React Trap where those components are from. They'll give you everything, so you can say import start as actual network. Give it a shot. What happens? Can't remember. I don't use import start. No, yeah, something like that. Yeah, so import all of them. Or import each one. Oh, okay. So you got to put in curly braces. So when you do it without curly braces, then it's kind of like importing start, but it goes all into that variable that you give it. So because we just want like import group, you put in label, then you have to put that inside braces. Yep. Yep, there it is. Nice. Cool. So they got this like the checkbox on the page.
You use React.
Yeah, yeah. So if you go back to the React Strap docs, go to layout on the side. Scroll up. That'll walk you through like your like what Bootstrap classes or integration. Okay. Yep. So we give that a shot. Thank you. Oh, it's 7 o'clock everyone, so you can take breaks if you want. If you don't want to take it now, just feel free to take a break anytime.
What did you say? Net again?
Sorry?
This, super,
Yeah.
what is that? What do you say was,
Yeah, yeah. So when you call super props, it makes it so in other parts of your class, when you say this stop props, this stop props will have props that you pass it to your component when you put it in someone's JSX. Yep. Yep, that is good.
Not great.
No.
So. I think I just need to watch it.
Which part are you stuck on?
I don't know. So the first thing I have to do is set up the container for the whole page, right?
Yep.
And then I'm gonna put the input box and the button and that checkbox
Sure.
in that container.
Yep.
So I called that file to do container.
Mhm.
And it's gonna be to do input. And is this supposed to be JS or JS?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
JSX is just like a given. Just say, hey, this is returning some JSX as a component.
Okay.
But it's
so-
not.
Okay, so then I would want my button in there.
Mhm.
Okay. And that checkbox.
Yep. Partially, so it's made with Bootstrap components. Like the checkboxes and inputs, these wrapped inside of form with a label, Bootstrap component. I wanted to check out the Bootstrap. Here, look at React Strap first.
Oh, yeah, it's right.
Yeah, because that'll give you like the actual component names that you're looking for. Yep, that's fine. Yep. Yeah. Yep, that all looks right. So all the form inputs, like those that are in that form section. Yeah. So there's like one example of the checkbox here. So the very bottom of that is a check me out. Sorry, the very bottom, like the top section. The very bottom of like, so there's that top form example on this page. This is form, yeah. So the very bottom of this, there's a tiny checkbox that says check me out. Yes. So you find that in the test code, that'll give you like a something like now to go over. Next. Okay, so you have your container, right? So now you want to start figuring out what components you need to put in there. So you need stuff like a button, you need a form. Yes.
Are you the one that everyone says I use it a lot.
Nope. So forms is going to probably be, so if you use lowercase form, you're going to use like the HTML form. If you want to use React strap, then you can type uppercase F and you'll get the React strap, which will give you like bootstrap classes and everything. Yep, yeah, it's all bootstrap and also React strap. So if you go to the React strap homepage, if you search for React strap. So you can do npm install -save and then React strap. That'll get you React strap, but you also need bootstrap too. So you can add like bootstrap to the end of that.
And in which folder would I need to import it? But I would do anything to do that.
Sorry? I was like reading at the same time. Yeah, sorry.
I was wondering which folder.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, why? I was just gonna install the straps.
Yeah, it's probably leftover from some of them. Pretty much hit it off or something. Yeah.
Oh, wait, sorry, are you date free? Your folder?
Yeah, I just gave them.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, then you're in the right folder.
Yeah.
I didn't want to.
That's fine.
I just don't forget
That's
that
fine.
still you have to import the CSS file.
One.
For
I did it. Right. So I have to go bootstrap for that.
It's all boots.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, okay. So you can add npm instead of install -save, you can say remove -save. It'll get rid of boots.
NPM dash.
No, just remove.
oh,
And then -save.
Google yeah.
And then type in boots.
So I wanted to get this code.
I think it's not on that page. I think it's very.
Oh, yeah, NMP.
Well, you told me it's going to be checked.
No, at the very beginning you have NMP
Yeah.
instead of NP.
Yeah, but you still need to, there's like a CSS file.
Oh, okay.
So like. Yes,
Oh,
it won't work without that one.
I have that app.
Yeah.
Cool. So now do active npm install. Save bootstrap.
And that would work. They just, okay. So.
If you scroll down, it'll give you the see where it says hitting bootstrap.
Yeah.
One more, yeah, we can just copy that over. Not unless you already did that.
That'll specifically import button. So if you want to use anything else except button.
Yeah, okay, that's that one, so form.
You want like all.
Oh, what do I have to tell them to?
Yeah.
React strap too, right? Do I need a command with this one? Like that. Should say like form, comma.
Yeah, you can program.
Okay. And then where exactly, like the,
Where like,
yeah, piece of.
Yep. Nice.
Probably it's very unique. You want that to
I'm just now, factor, checkbox. So.
Oh, so you want that to be like your two.
But, so I just need another.
Yep.
Phone. File.
Yeah.
Checkbox.
I would, yeah. I mean, if I were doing it, I would make
Do they need
Nope,
to
doesn't matter.
capitalize?
whatever the convention is.
Is
For what?
for when we're making files for the components, do they need to be capitalized? Okay.
They don't need to, but it's good to capitalize.
It says in the documentation they have to be
For the file name or for the component?
the file, like, the file name of the JSX file, if you're making a component, it has to be.
Cool. Okay. That's good. Make them capitalize.
Okay,
So
so now I got my checkbox, so, React strap,
That's not
it's not here, where does.
I have all of this. Wow. Yeah, but now, I don't know. I know I have to make them like work together. They're all one turn.
So, all right, so you can.
And I don't know how to make
Has the
this,
button,
like
you would put it down to
You're trying to make it so
checkbox.
when you press the button, it shows up.
that, and then I have to make whatever goes from here show up here. So now I'm like on like the actual notes.
Yep. So I would start with making it so that you have a state object that when you click this button, it sets the state to true or false. And once you have that state object, you can use that state object to like hide this or make it show.
I literally have no idea.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, like to template your quotes for you.
All right. So
So I have
that's
a
where
little-
you go, now back to here,
So
I put that in the div too.
basically, I just spam the keyboard, but I have the same thing where you can press the button and it shows up to the right. So basically, what you do is create a constructor. So, start off with super prompt, and then set the condition state. And the only thing I have in there is show move. It's what?
Oh, you have, at your React component, those should be curly
So
braces.
the way I leave it out is in app.js, I include a class called review bugs.
But yes, you have, you have,
Just
no,
want to be.
it's fine. The one at the top, class do containers and React
That's
component right
right
here.
here, and I use just a loose or a React strap.
yeah.
There.
So now,
If you're
back to
defining a
checkbox.
function in a constructor, the way
So I
you have to
import
do it is
I had something similar to that, but I had it like,
This is the button.
I had it like in the actual,
So I just have to go back and get the.
Oh, in app.js.
like,
You know, let's
I
just
had it
check
now.
box together.
Sure.
So
I had it
already
like here.
added that little bit of code.
Like I had like
So
a.
now I can import React from there.
Yep.
Oh,
Probably
you had a
like
function
a-
in there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So it doesn't work with it, I guess.
I mean, yeah, yeah.
It didn't work. It didn't work.
Okay.
It does have to be in quotes.
You better work.
So here,
Yeah.
so what I did now.
So
like,
when you say from, that has to match whatever
I have the button that
package name
and then
tags
it's
underneath.
text box,
Well, luckily, everything in React.
all in this add item.
So, yeah, dependencies that.
And then I have to, like,
quotes.
Basically, my main is not my app.js. My app.js only has the main. Word entry. And I have the main box, which has like whatever. And then I put add item and then the list together. It's like that all there.
Yeah, that's what you should need for your, well, you'll need,
That one.
I don't know.
yeah, you'll need React
So-
Shop. You can
Only
use it for
because
React Shop components.
those two have to then.
So what I would do is separate this into a separate component, and basically this syntax here that I wrote out, this stuff stays shown you, and like do it. So
Oh,
basically,
you can import it in there.
yeah.
And I took the check
So
box.
this is
Well,
fantastic.
okay, so you have,
No, then I have to
So I
class
did
extend.
yes.
my comment.
Okay, so here's.
Yep.
So that just means that.
So
Yep. There you go. Yeah.
I don't know if the tabs use form.jsx because you have, you know, you can import form from Bootstrap. So I don't know if you want to name a file form. I like to do tabs.
It's really good to be used to.
That's my new one. I'm
I mean,
trying to tell you I'm not actually a dumb person.
no, I don't believe you are.
Okay.
I think you just need to get comfortable with like, knowing where to look to find things. Like being able, knowing how to quickly reference documentation is a very good skill to have. But it's hard to teach you.
I can definitely see that.
I mean, I was doing the same thing up on, giving the last lecture, right?
Well, that's why I could see you were getting frustrated. And
Yeah.
you get frustrated. But when I'm doing it,
Right, of course, yeah, you can't help but getting frustrated. It's just important to remember when you're not frustrated and say, hey, yes, it's okay, I got frustrated at this point,
Wait,
but I
there's
got
another
through.
render first.
okay.
So render and then inside render is return.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Your turn.
And then we put it down to volunteer by
Oh, let's see. What? Can you go back to your code?
Yeah, I just copied this one. Yes.
Sure. Oh, it's because you have form group row? Yeah, see on your opening form group tab, you have row in there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, try getting rid of that. There we go.
You never,
but
oh, you're not getting there. So that's it.
That did.
I got it all right. Woo.
Yeah, so remember, JSX has to return like one single top level component. They kind of need to wrap everything in a div or some other component to get it to render happily.
So I think you want, but I think you might want to do the import to view task from where you just deleted that code from.
Oh,
Where, yep. basically you just put that exactly back in the same spot where
It was red?
Oh, I'm just importing it in the.
Yeah, now it's just a component.
Oh, it's not bracer parentheses. Okay.
Alright, not too bad. So.
Oh, wait, if you go back, is your. Oh, you have an extra brace underneath one.
So now you just have to basically do this.
I think so. Over thing. So remember, we have our component.
Yeah,
Now we
fine.
just need to export
I
it to
usually
make
what I
it
like
available
to do
to
is
the
just
other.
try to make sure when I put it back.
No, so you
that
can
it's
import
fine.
it. Oh, we need to tell the file what to export. So remember, like,
Yeah, I mean, you already have a regular message here. Oh, literally just have this.
Oh.
this
Underneath this, or like
Exactly,
in this.
everything has to be in a div or else
Yeah, so there's some form of that.
React likes to have everything inside one single thing, and that's the div. So right where you are right now, just type where.
Nope, so the name of the file, like the class that's in the file you're in.
Oh, just like.
So, there you go.
Oh, so what that's there, yes.
So now it should look exactly how it used to.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
So now is where you have to start getting into state control with that button. I know, it's scary.
It's scary.
So, do you know what a constructor is? What a constructor does?
Okay, cool.
They're like.
Sorry.
No, it's not
No,
your fault.
I
It just
know,
makes me feel like I have sausage fingers.
No, that's fair, same. I'm sorry, I didn't know what.
No, it's not your fault. I just have to get
The
over
first thing,
myself.
like,
Yeah.
before it even runs the render method.
A big draw now.
Let's go here.
Okay. So the constructor is the thing that gets run right
Second
away.
is particular
So
word
that means
or-
that right off when you start, the things you're gonna wanna do is super props. You're going to want to
It
set
does help.
initial state. So
I mean,
in this
okay,
initial
so
state,
we're in
the
our
only
first
thing
week
we have
here, and I've
is
walked you through the
what
entirety
is
of React.
controlling the button. So show new.
There's a lot to
is
take in for your first
meaning
week.
that when you start off, that
So it's
like
okay that you don't know.
that type box
It is
is
okay.
not there. So
Um,
show new should equal false.
So what are you trying to do now?
And then we
Let's
say
separate
we set the state equal to this variable that we set. So we set it off with that.
Doesn't matter. Just be consistent.
Yeah, just let it go.
Oh, you know what? I did this long now.
No, I didn't think so.
Just gotta get rid of that hyphen.
So then we set like basically just like a variable. Initial state is equal to that
Yeah,
object.
that should do that part. Oh, so you have an extra export default too? So,
Where did you show?
yep, you can either get that rid of that one,
So
or you can get rid
I
of the one on the
created
bottom.
this variable to say on click here when you click the button, set the state, set show new equals whatever it wasn't before. So basically that means that as I click the button, it will toggle.
Can you mouse over render there?
And that's what causes it to show up in this here.
Oh, you haven't
So
linked it.
show new is only.
So the problem is you're limiting.
Yep, and then we define it inside this object here called initial
You
state.
can either,
And then we set
another
this
thing you
dot
can try,
state
if you
equal to
type
initial
Shift
state.
Command P to
So that
open
means
your
anytime we call
command
set
window,
state or like
just
just
like
dot
a
state,
keyboard
we're gonna be able to deal with.
there's like an auto fixer.
Object
I don't know.
because we set it equal to.
Okay, so click inside your text editor. Hold Shift Command P. All right, now type in fix. Auto fix. Nope. Okay, never mind. Turn off your linter.
Oh, and then you do that. Okay.
Yep. So basically all this line of code here is saying is if state.showNew is true, then show
Show
this.
it.
And if it's not, then don't show it.
Okay.
You're gonna have to stay over here so I can plug it in.
I might follow you now. I forgot what I was typing.
Oh, no. Oh, that's the worst.
After
It's
install.
not like software, right?
Oh,
Sorry, that is the worst.
after install.
Oh.
Install.
Oh, yeah. Yep. That one will work.
What was-
So that one doesn't work well with Bootstrap is the problem. Look up React-widgets.
Oh, okay.
There's that big initial stage.
That one.
So the next thing I would do
Well, that
is
GitHub. Oh, yep,
make,
that's my cue.
make it so that this to-do task will
Yep, that.
disappear if shown
And
as
then
false.
there's documentations on, if you go back a
So,
page,
Do you remember how
go
to
back to
like
Google,
insert
that third one?
into
Yep.
this return function?
that'll help you go through
Yeah,
getting started and setup and everything. Okay, how about just you should be able to, if you type,
These are all the install.
Where would I do it though?
Well,
Why
I
is there- can you type
know
like
exactly what line of
after
code.
it's
you're
Like I
gonna
need
do.
an on-click, right?
I mean, yeah, you can do that now.
That's where I had it last
But
time.
this
I don't
isn't a type
think I remember how to put it, like,
So it's not enabled though.
So like, what do you want
Yeah.
to work on right now?
Can
You
you go
can
back to
either
your
make it
code
so that,
You mind if
okay, you want to make it so that state changes when you click that button.
yeah.
All right, so basically, you are going to want to put an on-click inside that button.
I mean, it'll say down there.
And you're going to want to say, well, let me look at my.
Oh, okay.
All right, yeah.
And then you said, do I sit?
Also, there's a capital C in on-click.
Oh, wait.
So,
Oh, maybe it's a JSX thing?
yeah, good. And basically, anything. So up in here, in right after the constructor is where we can define functions. So we create this function called onClick,
Yeah.
and anytime you create a function after the constructor, you have to say this dot onClick is this dot define.
Yeah.
Yep.
Alright.
So
Save a
what that
little- save some
does
time.
is allow it so that we can say, we can call that function from inside here.
Okay.
From inside, like the button.
Yeah, from inside the render function.
Is your code formatter set
Yep.
to format on save?
Yeah.
Okay, I love that it's JSX.
So now really all you have left is
And
to
then this
define.
code right here hides the, or it's,
That code by itself
it doesn't do
really
anything
doesn't
really.
do anything,
Should we
but
run
what
it?
it
We
does
just
do,
define initial.
yeah,
state.
we set up the state. So really in this line of code, we're saying this is what we want the initial state to be.
Mhm.
And then in this line of code, we're saying, okay, now set the state equal to what we want it to be.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. Because it won't just, yeah, say that.
I think you could maybe do something like this if you wanted to skip it all and skip this. You could probably say something like that. Because you see, basically, if you do something like that, you're just not putting it in an object beforehand. You're skipping that and putting it straight into it, straight there.
Oh,
But usually most
Maybe 'cause we
people just
disabled
like
the
to set
different
it
ones.
into an object and then set it from there.
so we're saying,
Try the
This is
outlook
the
thing one,
spread
that should be
thing,
pretty.
right?
Yep, so you say this dot set state. Basically, if we were to get rid of this, and it wouldn't make a difference right now, but if we had like, something like test,
Or null would probably work.
Hey.
depending on how to format it.
and thing false.
Try saving.
Basically, if we had this, this would all get overwritten, and the only thing that would be in here is show new.
oh,
That's why we
you
need,
need the spread operator.
yeah, this dot state, because that sets everything. This just says like get everything else and also this.
Okay.
Oh.
All right.
So.
So here we're saying set state, set everything to what it already is, plus also
What does that mean again?
that just means not.
Oh,
I
that's right.
mean, like,
Essentially what I'm doing is every time you click the button, show new, if it was true, then we'll set it to false. And if it was false, we'll set it to true.
Oh, I
Because we're just saying whatever it was not.
got it.
Did you start with the create React?
So that's the easy part is you, no, ready? It really is. So you define this function called onClick.
What is
And
the E?
that means event. So
Oh,
if you,
No, I believe you.
if you wanted to,
Oh, because it's not
I
connected to something else, you have to say.
there's certain
Why
things.
is it? Why is that?
The reason you have to pass this in is a lot of times, say you are programming a game and you want to make it so that when you press the right arrow key, it moves your character right.
Time, I guess.
You can say in JavaScript, e.keyboard event. So,
There's one
or
space
like
there.
e dot.
Oh, your install.
And I mean, you can use keyboard event off.
So let's see, so it's underlying that.
E dot keyboard event down, move right. So, basically, this E here means the event that happened. So you get, if it was a keyboard event, meaning that you type the keyboard in some way, it would tell you what that event was.
Okay.
So the E just basically means everything that it knows about that event.
Oh,
So right now it's just a quick event, meaning that there's not a whole lot you can do for it, because it's just a quick event. But I mean, something you can do is sometimes when you click a form, you know how it like submits and it goes somewhere. If you don't want that to happen, but you want to run some other JavaScript, you say e.prevent default, and that stops it from submitting the form. It stops the default behavior. So that's why you need that E is sometimes you want to do certain things.
Extra semicolon. New line required.
So yeah, basically this is just what gets run when you click it.
can you just say?
Yeah, so
This
there's
dot.
no,
Yep. So you're, whenever you click this button, that function gets run.
Oh.
Something's up.
And then,
Something
let me make this pop up by saying,
So do you remember how to inject like some JavaScript into that line right there? Basically, anytime you use these curly brackets here,
oh,
it'll say like, because you know JSX compiles all of this like HTML looking stuff
Yeah.
into JavaScript. Basically, when you say
Let me-
this,
Okay,
you're
let's take a
saying,
look at React.
no, wait,
Just-
this is
so maybe
actually
that's like
JavaScript.
React
Oh,
dominatrix and
that's
it's
easy. Okay.
forcing standards onto your code. No, that's React strap.
I know, but I meant to draw.
Oh, okay. What is-
So do I do? I'll do this thing again.
Let's see what's the next thing.
Yeah, so kind of like shorthand React way of saying like,
Because it installed.
you know, like
Yeah,
if statements.
Mhm.
Basically, what that line of code is shorthand for is like,
Well, it's React dash.
if this dot state dot show new equals true,
But how did it install on React?
I don't know.
make to do task. That's basically what that's shorthand for. And like else, I don't know how you
Package is no longer.
So you pass it this,
Oh,
then
let's see
you
what's
pass
in-
it state, why do you pass it state? You want
because
I'm just really
show
curious
new
right now.
is
No, that's
stored in
okay, I
state.
go,
In this
whatever
state.
you wanna
Yep.
do.
and then we say,
Because there's just this
because we
magical
want
package out
on
there
click, we
called
want
React.
to show new,
Without the
so we
dash.
say,
It's just
like
hanging
that?
out.
Yeah,
And it
and I
must
mean,
have
it's
to
not,
do with
it
something.
really doesn't have anything to do with the on click. The on click is just what sets the behavior of show new. But like, if we didn't even have
Okay,
that
so
on
maybe-
click, it would just basically make it so that it was always showing because Or no, it would never show because show new would always be false, like how we set it to be in the beginning.
Oh.
Because see how we start set show new equals false in the beginning? That means that when this render function gets rendered, it will say this dot state dot show new. It'll go, oh, that's false, and then it won't render that.
Oh.
So then when we run on click, it runs this render again, but this time it'll be show new will be true. And so it'll be this dot state dot show new. It'll go, oh, that's true. And then it'll render this.
Can we uninstall it?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's npm remove.
So give it a try.
It should say.
That's awesome.
It's a good feeling.
That's well, I mean, you
Turn on, oh no.
It went down from 36.
Do you want me to read over what I have here and you can look at it and then absorb it with your brain and go over? All right, so in to-do task, I literally just have like, hello world, but you can put like, your form in there. So I just have it so that, oh.
Yes. This is so weird. Oh, here it is. No, that's not it. That's just that. Maybe it includes. Okay, let's say this one.
So yeah, I just made a button that shows.
Oh, you know what? It yelled at me. It did tell me to do something.
And so let's start off with your constructor. You know what the constructor does? So you know how you have a render function and that's what draws everything?
What's yelling about JavaScript?
So constructor is what gets run before the render method.
Yeah,
So
give me
any
this.
variables that you want to set up before you render, anything that
Okay,
has
so
to
that's
be set
reload.
initially, you put in the constructor.
Cross my fingers.
Constructor basically, you can think of it like when the component is being constructed,
Yeah, we're
what
good.
do you want to set on initially?
So yelled at me. It said.
So basically what we tell it is we pass the props and say in the beginning.
Oh, you know what? You have an Atom folder here.
What?
Dot Atom folder?
You do?
Yes.
Constant initial state. That is
No.
just a variable that we're setting,
Can't blame you.
saying this is what we want our initial state to look like. And then we set, basically
I mean,
it
I
says
was
like,
messing with that today, but not.
this is what our initial
Somewhere
state should look like.
Hold on.
And then this line over here is like, okay, okay, now make our state look like initial state. So you basically say like, this is what we want it to look like, now make it look like that.
Oh, that's it. Look at that. Okay, so this file path is trying to find. It's looking in your. What it's supposed to look like. You have a
Yeah,
Git
the
directory in
state
your home
basically
directory.
is all of the like information about variables.
No, I can't
So
blame you.
anything you would ever want to change or like have sometimes be true, sometimes be false, or like if you would want to change like a name or a counter, for example.
You know what?
That all
You-
goes in the state. So anything that gets changed.
If you need it in the future,
move.
Git.
And you don't have to define this in a variable first. You can even like just roll this and then say instead of initial state, you can just set it off like that right away. But it's kind of nice giving it a name instead of just telling it. It's just something people do.
No, it's fine. I'm just saying, I don't mind.
We have this variable that.
I just feel bad that I don't.
That's all.
Yeah, I just wish I could do more.
You know
Like,
what?
I would
I
say
kind of
all
come to
night
the
if I can help.
conclusion, yeah, I think that's
Use that.
noble, but I think I've come to the conclusion that
We put that.
you just have to.
Yeah,
Because I wanted to see.
So that covers like
But
these
how
few lines
does
of code is just setting.
Oh, it did.
All how this
So
is
I
initially.
misread the file
That's how
path.
it goes in the constructor.
So
That's
it
how
wasn't
it goes.
dot slash Adam, which
So-
would mean it's in your project directory,
Next
it was
is
tilde slash dot Adam, which means add dot Adam in your home directory.
the reason we need this is because I defined
And
this.
the reason why
function
you would
here.
be seeing
I
that
could have named it
is
anything.
because
I
you had a
could call
docket
it like
folder in your home directory.
Make eggs.
And so VS Code tries to find the highest level
This
Git
dot
directory about your
make
current
eggs.
directory, which happens to be the .git directory in your home
This
directory.
dot make eggs, dot find this.
So how do I get normal thought process?
So what is called
Yep.
Yeah.
The reason.
So I fixed it for now.
is because
We moved
you are
that
passing
.git directory back to
this onto
.git.back.
this.
And then just in the future, be really careful not to
and I'll
initialize
show
Git
what that
inside your home
means.
directory.
Is when I created this button, is the React Strap button.
Well,
I
I
tell
wonder
it that
if did it though.
on click,
That would be.
Because
Okay.
So,
You can actually, we'll call it.
Yeah, let's give it a try. We can fix it if it's right. We know what's wrong.
no, because this is really good.
Oh, and so this is associated with
You can
GitHub.
say,
GitHub
on
and Git
click
are separate
equals
things.
this stuff, make eggs.
Yeah.
It's just saying like, this is the function. that we
So
want to
walk me
run.
through, what did you do when you first opened this?
If we had not passed, if we had not.
But is that when you did
done
when you
this,
first installed it?
It would have not known
Okay, so what did you do when you first
See,
installed
now
it?
that meant. It would have looked at this.
I don't even know where that is.
What it.
Wait, you click on it?
So there's this super,
Look,
I mean, it's super,
that's where they are, I don't know.
and it's that one right there.
Okay,
It's like passing.
could be just getting your home directory.
It's so confusing to talk about because it's called this.
It's on your desktop.
You're finding
I
this,
that one I
this.
created.
Well, that one's in your home directory, the React.
Connected
Use that on your desktop.
what it's seeing right here.
And that's what I tried to do. I was trying
Whatever
to-
you tell it here is what you're telling it.
Okay, so
Did you create React app doc?
Nice.
And then anyone? Okay.
So,
So
I
maybe
know
on
we
my
say this,
desktop, don't it?
so
I
fine,
know. Because
so with other languages, when you construct it, you have this, and it's connected to it.
Yeah.
So is that-
Um,
What is that? So this is like,
Yeah.
can be
this is the terminal.
binded
yeah.
to a function that will.
As far as my understanding, I mean, you don't really need to understand it. All you need to know is like you have to have it there. But as far as my understanding,
But then nothing happened. It doesn't
this
show up down here, nothing.
exists.
And I'm like,
like right here, this exists
So-
inside the
That's super annoying.
constructor,
yeah.
and then after the constructor, it does not exist anymore. So that's why you have to
Yeah.
say like, this dot make eggs equals this right here, before it goes like set it.
Yeah, you
And
can.
then, and then you can call it.
Right.
So when you call this, that makes.
I haven't used Atom in a long
Yeah.
time. All looking over the good.
Yeah, and then it goes, oh, so now we go down here. So it basically goes like.
Maybe try mousing it into the, like clicking on the
So,
text box.
so basically, on click means like, whatever is.
This is up there.
There's nothing to do.
And
Right.
so,
Okay.
Just the only way that I can think of. So,
You know, I'm not gonna say it's out of the realm of possibility. I can't say for sure what happened though. What's important though is we fixed it, and if it happens again, then know that you just have to move.
all right,
so I can figure out how to actually.
the way I read my
Okay,
code
that's
is
perfectly
I
fine.
have in my app thing, I just include
Sure.
to button, which is this component that I made here. And then I just have one more called to do task. And I have it so that,
We're going. Yep,
I have it so that,
yep, and that was, it was the standard .js
show
package.
new.
So you probably go through
Yeah,
and
because-
re-enable the rest of the stuff.
Because it was, it says.
There we go.
Oh, no, I think
Something like that.
it's like, now you need to have this.
So if you want like the new task UI to show up, that's a state thing.
Yep.
So.
When I installed it, it started requiring that
if
you
have
also
that
.js
set,
styling guide.
then show it. If you don't have that set, don't
Well-
show it.
And
Should be going now.
component inside it.
This is in my component.
You might want to take a break, like just to clear out your head, and
And then that's calling another.
Watch some videos.
that's perfectly fine.
And then.
So-
Which, by the way, I found another
I
guy.
think
Yeah.
I
on-
have,
Which one?
Oh, here.
Same. Hate it.
Oh,
Mhm. It's a horrible problem to have.
so I have that really long hair. This guy, that's long. Oh,
I have like half short hair, half long hair.
See, I couldn't stand it over my face.
Oh, no?
I don't like it. I had bangs in my head.
this
I just
guy
don't like
has,
when
he
they.
has a ton of videos on here.
Doesn't bother me too much.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's different, but
Yeah.
for me, it was a thing.
That's a lot of videos.
Yeah, he has a lot.
So
And they're
I have
like,
the main page, I have the checkbox.
Cool.
And then.
yeah.
Here you said student resources if you haven't done that already.
I mean, and they're not just,
He's got like Vue and I saw Apollo, which is like GraphQL.
yeah, he is, I mean, he's got,
Yeah, so where do you have the
Okay.
like, so that's
That's
the
fine.
button is, where do you have like the main like to do?
guy, there's one other
form? Okay,
Yes, it's great.
all right,
Here.
yep, okay, so I would
I guess,
copy
the
and
whole
paste
like,
that, yep, get rid of that.
recording app and
And-
components and that stuff.
Yep.
That's even got a thing on Meteor. But I mean,
So then in your to-do button, I would put that.
You mean like actually just writing out the JavaScript? Like,
yeah, like I don't even know where to send or like.
There. So I would run it real quick to make sure
Yeah.
everything's still exactly as you had in
Either I don't remember or I don't know well enough. But he's got
That's
essential skills, JavaScript, installing and understanding.
Um,
6 minutes and 39 seconds.
I feel like you probably need more than that, but I'm sure. I'm sure
Yeah,
it's
I mean, he
helpful.
has, there, and I think they're broken down, like, here's
Yeah.
like get C tutorials and he's got 6, 7, 8, 9. You know, so I think he just, you know, he breaks them down.
Yeah.
He breaks them into pieces,
Cool.
so.
So something helpful for me when I try to learn new things, I have no idea where to start. I just write down a question and I answer that question and I write down the next question and I answer that next question. And it's really tedious, but it's kind of like figure out one thing at a time. So like now, what is the first question I can think of?
I need to know where to make this submit. And then I need to make this submit go here.
Okay.
So, yep.
So I'd
it
say
should
start with
still be showing
button.
up.
How do I get a button on there?
Is that what I need? Do I need a button? That's the other part, like, do I need another button? Can I just hit enter and make it go, like?
Yeah.
Alright.
So, yeah.
I mean, so
that's
think about how you wanted to.
Pull it from inside.
What would you rather see? Would you rather see a button?
Press return.
Okay, perfect.
Up here.
So now you can say, how do I make a form submit on return?
See, look at, but this is a.
Well, not just for me, you could search, how do I make a React app do update state on return or something?
He's got.
Or even, not even update state, how do I make a React input
I change
change
this-
on enter?
Or you could name it literally like.
I like the just
Excel.
text better than a
It
text
doesn't
editor.
matter, but
Yeah,
He's
that makes
got
sense.
functional
people like to
statement
name
components.
things.
And then he's got using forms.
Yeah,
they're
equals,
all
and
part
then you
of-
can make an object, so like in brackets.
Whatever. I don't know. Breaks it down.
I'll show.
I called it show new, I mean, you
Yeah,
can call it
I
whatever
think
you wanna call
If
it.
it helps you to get, learn
Like,
React, then go for it.
control If it's showing or not. Okay,
And then.
so
I mean, actually,
initially,
Meteor,
you
or
don't
like
want it
Meteor.
to show up until.
I've never
you
used
press the
Meteor
button.
too much, so
So
I'm
that means
partial
initially
to
you want
it.
it to be false.
Lowercase.
It's, I also has a lot of tutorials too, if you ever want to go back through and give Adam another shot.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
And so the next thing you're gonna wanna do.
Yeah, but you don't have to,
Okay,
so
so it
it's
means this
there.
variable called initial state.
But
What
then-
you can do with the variable Is you set this dot state equal to that variable.
Oh. Oh, you got an extra, so line 23,
State.
and line 23.
Yeah.
Extra angle bracket at the end, after class equals form control. Oh, not there. So like line 23 has a library.
It's not
Yeah,
like
right there.
state has initial state in it, it's more like
Yep.
state is now equal to what we told it
Oh,
initial
no, that
state
doesn't
is.
either. I'm a fool.
So it'll, if
Okay,
you were to
sorry.
print
I think
what
the next one-
this dot state is, it would just say show up
This
false.
should be.
I'm missing it out. Yep, if you were to tell it initial state, it wouldn't know what you're talking about because that's only in the scope of the constructor. Just say this dot state. Yeah, I think you gotta say this dot state.
That's a lot of videos.
Yeah.
How long has been doing this for?
I don't know. Well, so far I'm seeing 4 years now. But I'm still not too happy.
Oh, get rid of that last text area. What's it?
Oh, I think I know what the problem
Can you
is.
mouse over?
Do you remember what the like syntax is when you want to insert?
Oh, one
something?
pair element. So just wrap the entire block of JSX in a div. So, but the one
Oh,
opening
really
div,
did?
yeah.
No.
That would have been like an hour.
That's man line.
Okay, what's up?
I'm reading about the back handlers
Mhm.
and make some old.
Sure.
So from what it says.
So, yeah,
um,
it's because the reason it doesn't say initial state is because we're not like
Mhm.
passing initial state as something into the state. We're literally just setting like whatever initial state is right here. That's what initial state is.
Okay.
And
Um,
this is what.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, next.
So you're really close.
What I would do
Take
is
this line here where it's got the red squiggly,
basically
put it
this
inside the
syntax
constructor.
right here. Is
Not inside, that's the state.
Where you're saying like,
Put it
If
inside,
this dot state
so
dot
like
yours
around
is
line
show up.
15.
Then have this to do that for a task show up. There's a whole bunch of them. Like you can make it so that you say question mark to do task.
You go, let's say you go back 7 years.
Yeah. So
Yep.
you can say
So basically all that's doing is saying, so it's got bind on the end of it, so that's saying, so your event handler can access the value of this that you want it to have.
probably do that.
Okay, there's another one that goes like just on change and then there's,
But it was sufficient for me to
well,
just
so like that.
short.
That's the problem.
That.
Oh.
Oh, so that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there a way I can combine these two lines?
Not really.
So that's like.
Yeah, that's probably like, it'll be a little bit clearer if you draw it like that too.
State dot show name equals true.
Not bad.
Then you want to show that.
And what is it bind, please?
Okay, so so let's see, look at
So,
handle,
What do you think will
equal
happen
change,
now?
email change, and then handle email
Yep,
change
it'll-
there.
it won't show
This
up
value of
because
this,
what
without
it is,
that line there on
you set
line
it equal to
8
false,
or 9,
and then you
this
tell it
won't
if it's-
be equal
if
to
this rendered is
anything.
run,
It'll be
it'll say,
undefined.
is this dot state
So
dot
it's
show name
reference
for show up? Is that equal to
Yeah.
true?
Oh,
And
this
since
is,
it's equal to
It's
false,
so
it'll
when
go,
you have
okay, then
dot
that'll
bind
show.
this, it makes it so inside
So
your
if you were to
function, when you
change
say
this in
this,
initial state,
this will be
change
the
to true
value
quick,
you want.
it'll show up.
and this is referencing this in here.
This here is referencing your entire component.
Every point is just looking for.
Yeah. So like when you say this dot state, because
Does all that make sense?
this dot state equals
Now, on
this,
this button,
Yep.
that
that makes it so when you say this dot state so results of your program, you get your state back.
But like, how do they know which piece of code they what? Oh, would they tell them that the email that they
Yes. Yeah, so you set different parts of the state based on which handler it is.
I put it in here, like both of these in one, like because if I have to change the code, would I just put it in here
It's in the brackets that you're learning JavaScript.
instead of like the password?
Yep, so where you define.
So
functions
you
is
could
right
put the both in there, but then you wouldn't know which value inside a state to update.
Oh, I'm trying
Um,
to make it short.
yeah.
That's where I'm just saying.
So in order to make it shorter, you could, instead of just getting your event coming through, oh no, event coming through is fine.
Which.
So you can put inside of there if, and then event dot target dot name. And then, so if event dot target dot name
Yeah, I mean,
equals email or something, whatever your input
I mean,
main value is.
Honestly, in this example, we're not.
Then you can say, okay, we got our email chain, so you can say, this sets
Yeah.
email
That's
colon, this dot
no.
target dot.
For some things.
Or this dot
no,
target dot
right?
value.
You get a form,
So basically, it's just for setting the correct property.
If you're running JavaScript, you don't want it to load a whole page. So yeah.
Yeah,
there you
that's
go.
also
You
simple.
don't- you don't
I'm
document
gonna stick
people like
here.
that.
Sure.
Yeah.
For now, this makes sense.
I mean, you don't need it in this case because you're not submitting a form.
A checkbox.
And it's just a button event, but if you ever did need it, it's there. Um, so also if it's like a keyboard event, you can.
Okay.
It'll tell you.
It's
that
not-
it's created,
Sure.
So.
It's just something.
It's not, I mean, it's not like that I can understand it, I just like that whole like
But in this case, we don't even need it.
adding in
So
whatever.
basically, what we want to happen when that button is pressed.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. So,
We want to toggle that form there, that
You could
so
move
it
it.
show up or not show up.
Figured that I was trying to look at something and figure it out.
Yeah,
So
so,
we don't necessarily know what that is.
the way you do that is with this dot
That could have
set
been since there in the beginning. Hard to say.
and,
I mean, it's fine to set it
That
up
is a
if you don't
function.
want to test it out, but I wouldn't say just give up on it completely.
but then you pass it some JavaScript, or I think it's because you're passing it.
All right, have a good night.
Good
See you
night.
in office hours.
Yep, I will
Like,
be there,
it's a,
for sure.
it's a function that takes in an object, so it's.
Like that. But I don't need it. Okay, okay.
No.
And this is another
Well, they went
case
through
where,
it
like,
for a second.
really what you could make,
I got
you could say,
this,
um,
but now it's just doing
Let's-
the actual like coding.
let new state equals.
Gotcha.
You can say that if that's more familiar. to you,
Here, I'll
and you can
send,
set
uh,
state equals new state.
Let's see, I'll post a link to the React documentation, like the students' resources. There's a good example
I
of
believe that works.
how
Let me
to
run it
do-
real quick.
how to like actually get your state from child to child. Give me one sec.
So basically, the only thing I did is.
Okay, so we go to React and we say
Up here,
main concepts.
we Gave our object a name and then we set the state
Let's see, and we
equals
say
name.
lifting
So
state up.
Here I named it new state and I created that object and then I set the state equals new state. Yep, that's all inside that, because we want it all to happen.
Alex, I'm so frustrated.
It's okay.
Not.
It's okay.
No,
It's okay. You don't have to get it.
Right here.
but I want to.
You want to, yes, that's good. It's good that you want to. It's bad that you're getting frustrated. At times like this, you may want to take a break.
Basically what that does is it
When you get frustrated like this, you start getting stuck in like loops of thinking, yes. And in order to break out, you have to go and take a walk or get a snack or a drink or go to sleep. That is fine. Go home, take a break.
Maybe I'll like watch a video or something, I don't know.
Yeah, that is perfectly okay.
Oh my God.
I mean, so after this, you have 3 more weeks of React, or 2 more weeks of React to
I mean,
figure it
that's
out.
good, that's also good. I know
Yeah.
it's not like the only week ever.
Yeah.
It's still
That
like,
says everything else.
So
That says
what this week has done,
everything else,
it's
and
introduced
also
you to
says
all
state
like the basic concepts of React.
yeah.
So as you're going forward, you know what things are kind of.
So,
No, I do, and I do, like I get,
Oh, no, I'm saying you know what things are, and that's good, because now you have a basis to build the rest of your stuff.
like I said, I think it's mostly
show
like
new.
how much I know about JavaScript.
Mhm.
Not as much as I thought I knew.
Sure.
So what I'm doing.
Do you know Code Academy?
Yeah, I'm gonna do, I'll do some.
Yeah, they have that really good JavaScript course on there that'll walk you through like
Sometimes
everything.
these are just like refreshment.
Yeah.
Go through it so fast and then you move on, it's hard to keep going back.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I don't know what's wrong.
Yes, because checkbox is part of React.
Because I know
Component,
it better.
or it's part of React.
Uh-huh.
Call it continuous checkbox.
Yeah.
I also don't know.
So then you created that object
For
and then you
React,
have
like,
to
where do I put
set your
the
state
JavaScript?
to that object. So you
It
say
is,
set state.
that's the other part, like, where am I putting things?
Yeah.
So they make sense. So I think that's also like I can do loops and I can do all that stuff, but like, some of this, I'm like, I don't know where to put.
And you no longer need that bracket
I'm
because
just gonna.
you already created your object
like,
here.
Figure it out more, but I
I'd say,
get the general idea.
yeah, it's good. That's good. That is very important. You have it kind of logically, you just
I'm
need to
going
know
to
how to
create
do
an
it.
object now.
Yeah, that's why I'm frustrated.
Yep.
So, oh, there's one more thing we need in your constructor.
Don't be mad at yourself. Be nice to yourself. Did you find somebody
Remember
to
that
use one-on-one time?
This conversation we had?
Yeah.
You have to
I
find
mean, I mean, I
this.
can have like a single time, but I think I might
Yep.
do that in the morning.
Okay.
And then I might just, I don't know, I need a lot.
Sure. Definitely come to office hours.
I can't.
Oh, no.
Work.
Okay.
Because I'm doing like summer camp, I have to work like 9 to 6.
Saturday too.
Saturday, I'm very busy.
Okay.
We have like a bunch of crap going on.
Well, when's the next time you're not busy?
So, do you do this where it says this stuff? This stuff?
Probably the following weekend,
Okay.
like a week.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
because next week I'm teaching.
So that should work.
All day, so.
It should just talk about that.
Gotcha.
Oh, no.
That is rough.
Not read the problem.
Good luck.
What has been helping me is reading articles with a mean, like right now I'm actually on Medium.
Oh, it's because
Just
lowercase
like
s.
searching out like whatever I want to do. Yeah, sometimes it's a hit or miss, but sometimes they give you the articles. And they
Right. I'll see you guys on Monday.
All right.
have a good weekend.
And it's on the summer camp.
I'm teaching 6 times a next day, so it's going.
That sounds like so much fun.
I think it's gonna be actually.
Is that the one, the coding for kids one?
Yes.
Summer.
It's fun.
I mean,
Cool.
yeah, it's usually at summer camp that kind of want to be there
that
too.
would
so-
be-
Yeah, no, it'll be fun. I'm actually really excited. It's just gonna be a long day
Yes.
for 2 weeks.
Do you get like lunch and stuff provided for you?
Yeah.
That is good.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Woo! Anyway, thank you, Alan.
Sorry?
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Garnet.
Can you go back real quick? Shouldn't it be replacing? Okay, so let's see. So you got your opening div on 9, 7.
Do I have extras?
No, I think, yeah, right. So you got 4 divs. You got 2 opening divs and 2 closing divs. You have your label, you have your closing label. Oh, you're missing a slash at the end of your input in JSX.
Oh, you want it to completely get rid of
So
the
let's see,
added.
kind of like that blank line between 10 and 11 there, where it says so completed tasks
Yeah,
to the left.
yeah.
You might be able to
There's
use,
one more.
actually,
And then
yeah,
the-
you remember that, the ternary operator I showed you
Nope,
before,
sorry.
question mark? Yes.
Here.
So
okay.
where,
That has
go
to
into
just
your
close.
do button.
Yep.
So
Was it-
what you
but
can
is there
say
two in a row,
is,
two alligators?
since you want the
Yeah, that's
button
fine.
to show up whenever.
Oh, wait, no,
Um,
what alligator?
you want the button to show up whenever your form is.
That was your
So
button.
it's just
And you want
backslash
the
or.
form not
Yep,
to
just a
show up.
slash.
You want them to switch.
Okay.
So you can use,
Okay, so let's see.
instead of this, you can.
The part you want to pay attention to
Saying either or. So this or, this button, which might be used in the class, or I mean, I guess,
Can you scroll down here?
that'll work for now.
It's kind of below this. This is just like creating the inputs. There's a part here where it does.
Oh, I think it's because I copied.
Okay, so
it.
listing state upside is what you want.
So, yeah.
So temperature input would be like your child components. And there's 2 temperature inputs in this case because they're doing like a Celsius Fahrenheit conversion. So it just kind of passes back the value of one to the other one because they converted a big Celsius to heat.
Yeah.
So if you
So
scroll
I
down,
basically just told them to flip flop.
they talk about.
And you can even, start reading from here. You can set where it is, go back to your
The next step,
Sure.
now I, want
All
to
right.
connect
So here's where it starts to get a little bit more complicated because
into
you would have to
Mhm.
say if you wanted to add it to do,
Yeah.
just fall back, like go
But I
back
was
to
able
the
to get
button.
the little comment that you have in
Oh,
So,
gotcha.
Since this is a
So I think you have an
child
input here.
state, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I didn't use an
this is
input.
to do
So remember when you
with
installed
input
React
that is.
widgets?
You would have to
I
somehow
used the
access
date time picker from
this
React widgets.
state from
But when I
there,
do that, it's got an error, but it gives me,
which I don't quite know how to do.
so if you have.
Would you like send information from Tom back and forth?
I think you could do that, but I don't know if you could. You might be able to access tags. Yeah.
How would you do that date time? Oh, so you don't want to export it from React Strap. You want to export it from React widgets.
Yeah, so it looks like you do stop. This is saying this dot props dot handler.
Yep, that's it.
That's a whole other, that's a little bit.
I know,
more advanced.
date time picker. Okay. Mhm.
That's pretty cool.
Cool, thanks, okay.
Just that one's fine. Let's just get it showing up first, and then we can work on hooking it up and stuff.
Oh, yeah, no, you just open the file.
Okay, cool. Let's see what the page looks like. Oh, right. So we got stuff localization, which is like, it's part of React widgets. Basically, localization is just like it sets the default time zone. So
I
go
would
back to
start with
React widgets.
just like a simple test. So say like,
Um,
create like a paragraph,
okay, scroll.
say. Is that
Go ahead,
okay?
page.
So that should be showing up.
Click the localization heading on the gray menu
Something's
bar.
gotta be wrong, because that should be the definition.
Yeah, you try clicking that one. I think when I clicked it before, I got like a 404 or it didn't work. That one in the
Oh,
menu
is
bar works
it
though.
running? No,
Oh, yep.
wait a minute. It wasn't running.
So I would say
Oh,
either
it
go with
was running.
the recommended one or
Yeah.
which is down the page a bit more.
You have it running in a separate terminal.
Oh, I don't have
It's not specific to daytime picker.
Mhm.
You just have to like follow the instructions for one of these.
I don't see
scroll to the
another
top.
terminal, but when there's gotta be another one running because I run npm start.
So keep going up, we'll get to the one in a moment. Okay, so right here,
So now
So,
that's running.
run through these steps until you get to like date, until you get to the next section.
Wait, you have.
So I had to remove the first one.
Oh, there's.
Right.
Which one did you install?
Daytime picker, React widgets.
Oh, no, that one can stay. So this is installing an addition to it.
Okay, so
How's it work? Still not showing anything. Right? Are you sure you're running the right?
Oh, we already did daytime picker, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
They don't need that one, but the other two you probably need.
Oh, so you might be able to file. So you have to look through your full file.
Well, let me show you, because I have that out. Right there. Okay, so I'm supposed to be on project July 18th, my app July 18th.
So I think you missed some steps
So this
too.
one right here says my app July 18th. And then if I do.
Okay, so go back. Oh, wait. Yeah, okay. Go back to the documentation you're just looking at. So where we're looking at documentation like this, you kind of just go all the way through to the end of the stuff you're looking at and start installing things because otherwise you start looking at the steps. Nope, not that one. Not that one.
So that's
The React widget one. Yes.
all of the source files are.
So let's see, if you look at that code, you did the import steps, but there's also some steps below where it's like moment dot.
So yeah, that's exactly what you're talking about. So.
Yes. That can just go right in the top of your component. Yep, give them both. Go take them both.
So I'm gonna get rid of this really quick, just as a test.
There you go.
I'm gonna let's see if maybe that was causing a crash. That is so weird.
Oh. Does it say disabled or enabled?
This is supposed to be JS.
It might be disabled.
It doesn't matter.
See,
So, disable next one.
oh no, not that. See, like when you do your daytime picker, you have disabled. Get rid of that. So disabled in that case means it sets that it's the value and it stays at that value. But we want it to be like a picker so people can choose their own dates.
But I'm thinking of something.
There we go. Well, kind of. That's better. So I think you're missing your, if we go to React App, you missed the part where you have to import bootstrap CSS.
Yeah, I thought I did it though. Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. It's just fine.
I mean,
That's
I
fair.
think.
Because why?
Okay. Oh, it's not just Bootstrap. There's more CSS you need to import for React widgets. If you
I
go to,
mean, in terms it shows that.
go back to the top.
I also wonder why render is, isn't normally like highlighted. Yeah, I don't know.
Go to getting started.
Honestly,
It looks like something on
Setup.
might be.
There it should be. It might be an Oh yeah.
that just means you
Uh,
haven't used it
So
yet.
Oh.
right.
Honestly, what I would do
No,
is,
no, it's not that one. Oh yeah, no, it is that one. No, sorry, not that one. There's one that's like CSS. Oh, it's there. It's that one. Didn't even see it.
you might want to just generate a new project and copy
Okay.
the files over, or just copy
Sounds good.
the startup folder. And then
There we go.
How do I stop this?
Okay, so I still have a couple of things to
So-
do, but I just wanted to.
Yeah, Control
On
C
right,
stops
it's
the process.
still
of
wrong.
Oh,
I don't want to check off.
let's see.
All right,
Where's your checkbox?
Unless maybe Alice.
all right,
Type
all right,
checkbox.
I'll try it.
Let's go back to your top component. Can you look back at your code? Sorry. Or the page.
No, the page code.
Can you help me?
Pretty busy,
Did you cite the date? Body. Your code.
Well, let me know if you have like a specific.
How can I help?
I got the design down.
Just keep it one of those, I guess. See if we can find a checkbox in there.
guess that's the title.
Oh, yeah.
So I have this part,
Okay.
but I don't know how to connect that to something that you
Yeah, we can say that last one there. Okay, so it's one at the very top.
So you're just trying to make it so that when you can click, like the save
So
button,
that one,
it
there, the
will.
one that's not expanded.
Oh, it shows-
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Okay, so expand that label.
So you're gonna have to have
Mouse over
a separate
the input.
component that is a list.
Oh, it's off the screen.
Another file?
Yeah.
Can you expand the screen? So. Oh,
Yeah, get out of here.
all right, I didn't know. Don't make the cut. Okay, so I'm saying that div class form group, say form check.
Here.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, yeah, right there. You're there.
So
Fusion class.
basically,
Form check.
okay, this would be easier. Can I write out?
oh, yeah, that's my, whatever, if that doesn't, here, you can use this, or.
Okay. All right. So
Auto updates, right?
Yes, I think your server stopped.
No.
So basically, your window looks like this, right? Can I see how you have it laid out again? Where's yours? All right. So your form looks like this, and you have
There it is.
Oh,
a
there's my
submit
check
button.
box. Okay, so I fixed my button, now I gotta do this.
You
And
want
then it says this here.
tasks to show up over in this area,
Yeah.
and then
It
each
might just be a
task
different.
is going to show up in its own little box here.
Right.
So basically, what that
Um,
means is
And then
that
last night we did
this
the.
is probably
Tuesday
going to
we
be
did the
one
time,
component here,
date
and
timestamp,
each little
And then
box here is
yesterday we did
probably
the-
also going to be its own
how you
component
get it
as
to go
well.
from one state to another.
So she
Yes.
tried. Okay, because I don't think I have. it.
But-
But I-
That's fine,
How
sure.
was
That part was
that?
in. Okay.
That would be in here.
Index is kind of dumb. You don't really need it right now. You like, are you trying to get to app? So since you're controlling it from the button, I would put it where you have your
You probably
button.
remove that.
Where
checker
is your
too,
button?
because that's, it's being replaced by the checkbox.
But it's a makeup.
Ah,
That's in the-
alright, cool. So. I don't know, if this were
I
me,
think it's all in.
I would worry about like functionality and then worry about like getting it over to the side, so it might end up going like below it instead of to the side. But so what I would do for just right now, for testing is I would put
Oh,
list
I get that a lot.
component right
If you go back-
there, just because it's the easiest.
So you have two different form groups.
So this list component that you just did.
Yeah, so you have.
I'm envisioning that
line
list
20,
component
that
would be
form
like
group
this block right here, and
There.
then you'll have to make another
That's
one
just
called
label,
like
and then the one below is your
tasks.
description.
that is each one of these little
Okay, so I
blocks.
just consolidate this.
Well, no, you need to press another,
I'm sorry. So
just delete that bottom text area.
so this
because
right
that
here
text area
would be a
in the
component
description
called
is already on.
task, and it will have like the title will be like do laundry. That's the title, and then the description will be like wash,
Also your file
clothes,
Oh,
clothes, and dry.
You should always have.
And the reason you're gonna want that to be in a component is because you're gonna wanna like automatically complete, or automatically create them. Because say you create one task that's called with the title do laundry and a description wash
You're
clothes.
hitting Control C.
You're gonna want to be able to create another
Right.
one that says
Okay,
like
now I want to.
take out
Yeah,
trash.
and automatically restarts, so you don't have to hit Control C.
and in take out trash, you'll say
Click on
like
the console because I think it's there.
uh,
Oh, there it goes. There's a thing.
take it out.
Okay, cool.
So this is going to be a component called something like
Right.
Oh, I
task.
Yes.
Because you're going to
So
want to be
that
able
was
to
the
create
description text here, so
multiple
now you just
of
have to do
these,
the duty.
and you're going to want to pass in the props,
Alright.
props dot title, props.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard at first. It's just,
I
you get open, I know, the same way, I have a lot of anxiety getting started with new tasks, and it's just like, I don't know if there's any way here to just learn it.
No, there isn't. You're absolutely right.
It's hard to like sit here and tell somebody who has anxiety that you just gotta do it,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah.
But usually,
Glad I'm helping.
I would just
Yes, no,
worry about like
absolutely.
laying this all out first, and then you can worry about like making it work. So you're also gonna want to have
Yeah.
something to hold all of these, because you can't just put them in empty space. So
Yeah, that's not
Thank you. I come to, sorry, Dana, are you gonna be off hours?
So if we're calling this
Oh,
component
Dana.
here, like
Yeah.
this
You're
gray
going to
box,
New York?
we'll call that like a
Yeah,
task,
and you know it.
and we'll call this.
Either,
Have a good weekend.
I should be
say
leaving
list-
Sunday.
list
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go to the
component,
office hours, but I might go
would
to
be
see
this like
my
box
sister.
here.
Or stay at her
So
house.
this box will hold,
Hmm?
basically it'll look something like
It's supposed to be app.js.
inside this component, so you know, the render
So
thing,
down
you'll have the div.
Yep.
When you say this
I mean, this that you created here. I honestly, I would have called it something like task container.
Yep.
Alright, and then we're gonna.
So, you know, inside the render function for the task container, it's literally just gonna look like this. You're gonna say
Yeah.
task title
So all
equals take out blah, 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 and description equals blah, blah, blah. And then you're gonna have another task,
extension port hours here, you know?
That
title.
extension port?
Oh,
The orange one, it's just
So
always
the
in
problem,
the corner of that room.
index.js.
It's always in the corner of that room.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, so what am I? This is where my, my
So
HTML.
this list
No,
task
so this,
container
oh,
here
yes.
literally just holds all
So
these
this is
tasks.
where React, you tell
And
React where to put your, where,
And so once you get that all created, you can worry about like moving
So
over
let's
here
see,
and
how about we have
inside.
index.html, right?
But I would just work on like
There's
getting
getting
the
the div in
components
here
created.
with the ID of root. And this is
Get that part.
our
Yeah.
React.
Yeah, come on.
Like a problem. So we can call.
Yeah, it's really fun.
So instead of rendering JSX, this
How
actually
explanation
renders.
is
So we
Yeah, I
just-
believe so, so I just have to do something that I think is at least.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone,
Yeah.
thank you.
Good night.
Yeah,
Yep, it's all just stringing stuff together.
yeah, I wish I had more time to explain.
Well, I mean, I'll be there on Sunday.
This is probably.
If I can get it done.
I think so, yeah.
Is it gonna get put back up or no?
I think Will says it's back up.
Okay.
So finally, we could say, so this is just a plain JavaScript function type, so document.get, element by ID. Let me say the ID of that is, which was written. So that, just close it out. Throw something on there. Root goes in public.
Thank you.
Yes.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Okay, public index.
See you, Garnet. Yeah. Thank you for your help. Yeah.
If there was an app,
I'm learning something.
no,
Yeah.
and that's that phase.
Yep.
I didn't work, but.
So the other thing we have to do is error, because this is JSX here, we have to add import.
They were like, I don't resolve an
App, oh, you know why? Because I always do this, load up, because it's a file, and so I think it's a dot, I know everything. And I think it's uppercase. You're right, thank you. This is why pair programming is good. Okay. So now we got some more errors we gotta go through and fix. Oh, so we don't need this one because we declaring navbar in the same folder, so this is like trying to include it from the file
Okay,
we're
from
currently.
a file, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
So we don't need this right here.
But we kind of do. So let's say this navbar. So this is kind of weird because we're trying to call navbar, but we're defining navbar right now, so we can't really have this in here. If you want to use navbar, we'll have to call it from like a free extract or some other library.
Okay.
So for now, I'm just going to comment this out. So you'll be able to see that's there. So we have to do this because it's inside JSX.
So you just highlighted it, hit command and the backslash, it'll come in.
I don't know if he'll do that correctly with JSX.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because I was wrong in using this kind of comment. Otherwise, it comments out this last brace that we came.
Oh, okay.
Yep. To use filters undefined, so let's go through to here. Oh, we just haven't imported it yet. We've got at the import. Sorry, I don't mean to be typing all this for you.
That's okay.
I just want to get you out of here on time
All right.
because I think you're very close.
Mhm.
It is. Save. Backslash. Filter. Oh, so instead of reduce container, we'll call it reduce filter. Do the same thing down here. Let's see. Oh.
Oh, that's to do some stuff.
Yeah, let's see. Reduce filter. Oh. Extra key there.
Oh.
Yeah, there we go. And look at that.
Wow. Yay. All right then.
Yeah, you just had a few things you had to fix, but otherwise it's rendering just fine.
All right then. So now, where is it that I can go so that I can reference how I'm supposed to fill this form that you have? That was that Monday? Was that Monday that we? I just have to go ahead and
Oh,
do
yeah.
an HTML form.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
If you want to look at, so the app that I have up right now, I posted in student resources. Yeah.
Okay.
Or
All right.
I posted in students.
Oh, all right then,
Yeah.
in GitHub.
No, it's on GitHub now. I just posted the link to the Slack channel, but I
Oh,
will
in the
post,
Slack channel.
I can move it into
Okay.
GitHub real quick.
All right. As long as I can find it.
Yep,
Yay.
it'll be in my A. Miller folder.
Okay.
Oh.
You have a great weekend.
Thank you, you too. Yeah, I think